There's no by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can
sell.
wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. Today is Saturday. It's the 2nd of November. And we had another red start to the month. Sort of surprisingly, because we got the beginning of the month. Although there's nothing ever that will surprise you about this price action. Bitcoin started the month with a typical dip off the monthly open, and then with a nice reversal heading into the New York session, and then it just got smacked back down in one candle. So it's pretty typical of in a reaccumulation, choppy phase, whatever you want to call it, pre-breakout price action. It's pretty normal to see these kind of full moves retrace, and it usually leads to a significant period of chop just after. So essentially what you're seeing is you now have yesterday's low and yesterday's high, which are both going to be targets. And then you're just looking at which side gets hit first on a lower time frame. And typically, you see this. So after you have the move, price gets really, really choppy, staying within this range for about as long as we've seen. For the decline we've had from Tuesday all the way down into Friday, so three days or so, it'll be about as long again until we get another move around this kind of range here. And then it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And the worst time to do anything is like right now, because almost certainly this is how the market's going to move. Now, when I say almost certainly, I'm not saying it goes up first, then down, then up and down. In general, if you look at time and price, it's going to most likely spend the next, let's call it a week or so, if not even more, within this same range without breaking either side of it. But it will look like it's going to break both sides. All right, so say for example, it could go straight up. It might go up and grind up and grind up and look really good and grind up and look like it's great and then fall like that. Or it might just drift lower and drift lower and drift lower and drift lower and look like it's going to break down. I expect it to be something just more like that, more sideways. But that's typically when you get those little bursts of volatility. So we moved into the highs, price dropped off the highs pretty fast, had a fast reversal, another fast reversal. You then usually get some sideways, take out the lows, go towards the highs, back, more chop, and it just becomes part of this sort of consolidation. I'd say reaccumulation, as it should be. But you're not sure certainly if it's a reaccumulation at these levels. It could go a little lower. So, it could drop back down to these lows at some point, which would still be a reaccumulation, but from a lower level. However, first expectation would be something like this. And then, of course, if we make it above that level, it's same kind of thing, where you get above here, you go towards the highs, and you have the little drop off there. You get some of these spiky volatile moves there, and then further up it goes to break out. Same sort of thing. Just depends what's going to happen over the next several days. Obviously, election coming on Tuesday. Big election stream coming as well. I'm going to stream for the election. It's going to be huge. And tomorrow, me and Professor Ayush are doing a crossover stream. So got Ayush from the Stocks Campus, the TradFi Master, the Macro G, finding out what is going to happen. What's the election going to bring? Moon, zero, bull, bear, boom or bust. What are we going to see? We'll see it all tomorrow. And then today I've got weekend workshop, advanced market structure, part 2. Make sure you're there for that one. And that's about it. No point belaboring anything today. It's a Saturday. Not much is happening. We've just started the new month. You go to the monthly candles. We need to put a monthly lower wick in. We're doing that. Perfect. You go to ETH. Not our ETH. ETH. Similar. Sol. Similar. Randomly, there might be some coins pumping. Giga and then a poo a bit. Bouncing off its lows a bit. Wolf a little bit. And that's it. Someone asked me about MicroStrategy. So I'm actually going to break that down on Trade of the Day. Or will I? What will I do for Trade of the Day? Trade of the Day. No. I'll do MicroStrategy now. So really simply, or really quickly, for MicroStrategy, if you don't know, it's Michael Saylor's company. And you have MSTR, which is the stock for MicroStrategy, and it is absolutely mooning. It's even ahead of Bitcoin. So the MicroStrategy business model is, they are a tech company. They make some money. They are profitable, but they're not like crazy profitable. Certainly not to have a chart like this. They make money and they buy Bitcoin, and they hold Bitcoin on their treasury as their treasury asset on their balance sheet, as a reserve asset on their balance sheet. And they also now raise debt. So they've announced that they want to raise $21 billion in their most recent shareholder call. Well, 42 billion, technically, half of it being equity and half of it debt, to purchase more Bitcoin. So 21 billion in new shares and 21 billion in debt. The new shares, that's what companies can do. They can issue new shares, so essentially they dilute the existing holders. And 21 billion in debt, so borrowing against. Stock has been pumping. There's a thing called a MicroStrategy premium. So the value of the stock is much higher than the company is worth, right? So if you look at MicroStrategy's market cap, it's in the, it's got to be more than 10 billion, right? It is 46 billion, yeah. 46 billion, and they hold about 10 billion worth of Bitcoin. So there's like a 4.5x premium just based on their holdings. People say that's relative to their Bitcoin value, that the stock value is unjustified and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, people always say this. Markets move based on stories. It's one of the best stories in the entire thing. Now, Saylor wants them to be a Bitcoin bank, where essentially they own all the Bitcoin and they loan it out. And they loan it out at a small percentage return, and then people pay them back and they get more Bitcoin with it, and so on and so on and so on. The whole game is just as much Bitcoin as possible. Now that does look like a top this week. After their shareholder call and after all that, that certainly is a local top. You'd expect to see some sideways. But I think the party will continue as Saylor goes fucking mad. Now, how does it actually work? Well, it's really simple. You're just using leverage. It doesn't matter how they dress it up. You're using leverage. You're borrowing money to buy more Bitcoin, and then you're paying those people back at a lower rate than what you borrowed. So if you can borrow money for, let's call it 10 years at 5%, and you buy Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes up 500%, you can pay back the loan easily. So this all works as long as Bitcoin goes up forever. That's it. Simple. In a simple sense. If Bitcoin continues to go up, like even 20% per year for the next 10 years, Saylor becomes the richest man on earth. Or one of. What can go wrong? It's leverage. So everything can go wrong. But it's not like Luna people talk about. It's not like fucking GBTC. What people talk about GBTC last cycle. It is different. It probably will die slower. And it will kill MicroStrategy when it happens, if it happens. And I don't know what it'll do to Bitcoin. It will, I'm sure Bitcoin will go down, but you can't kill Bitcoin just because some guy wants to borrow a bunch of it. So for me, it's not a big concern. And sailors are Chad. And yes, it'll probably end in tears, but we'll have fun along the way. And that's it. GM. See you later.